Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Awesome Wholesaler Experience podcast, where we look into the many facets of the job, the career, and the lifestyle of investment and insurance product wholesaling. I'm your host, the creator of the Awesome Wholesaler Experience podcast, and yours truly, Awesome Mike. Hey, everyone. Today's guest on the show is actually a longtime friend of mine. Now, unfortunately, I'm getting to the age to where most of my friends seem to be longtime friends now. But it's none other than Mr. Kurt Whipple. And let me read his particulars here for you. Kurt Whipple is a certified wealth strategist and certified estate planner. And for the past 32 years, has served as president of Advisor Success and C. Curtis and Associates, which is a financial firm located here in Southeast Michigan. You might find more interesting, though, prior to this, Kurt was a 7-state territory manager for Roosevelt Life Insurance Company. Back when wholesaling was actually done on horseback, I hear. Now, Kurt spent the first 5 years of his career in radio sales and management after graduating from Biola University with a BA in communications. But today, Kurt is dialed in from glamorous and glorious Nashville, Tennessee. Kurt, welcome to the show. How are things at the Grand Ole Opry?
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share. And the Grand Ole Opry is as great as ever. Nashville is booming. The plane today was filled with bachelorette parties coming down to Nashville, which seems to be a popular place to come for that. But unfortunately, it's a bit overcast. But other than that, it's a fantastic city.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it very much. I had the fortune of being at a conference there once at the Gaylord Opryland Gaylord. Magnificent. You never have to leave the property. But we did. We went down to Broadway. And I can understand why Tennessee is such a popular destination, not to mention the state tax or lack thereof, state income tax. You can't beat that one. Really quickly, how are you there right now? Are you doing something for business down there? Or is it a vacation spot? I remember a few years ago when you first started going down there, but tell us, what are you doing in Tennessee?
We've been going back and forth between Michigan and Tennessee for about 10 years now. That happened when my first granddaughter was born. And my wife looked at me and she said, babe, are you going to figure out a way to spend some time in Nashville, or are you going to be a bachelor half the time? And I went, maybe I better figure out a way to spend some time in Nashville. So now I have 6 granddaughters down here, and both of my children, and they both live about 5 minutes east and west of us. So we ended up buying a home down here, a second home. And so I go back and forth.
Wow, that's terrific. And how'd the kids end up down there? Are they in music, or do they go to school down there? And
yeah, my son-in-law is lead singer in a group called 10th Avenue North, which is a contemporary Christian group. They've got their 5th album coming out now, that all over the radio. They're doing very, very successful. My son came down here to break into music, played the honky tonks for a while, ended up meeting a girl, falling in love, and they decided to open a hair salon. And now he's very successful, and he cuts hair for Florida Georgia Line and for, I could name off a number of very famous people that have utilized his haircutting expertise.
Oh, that's terrific. Again, I adore Tennessee. I don't think anyone doesn't adore it. And it's a great place. So congratulations on that. Let's go back to the beginning, though. You're born and you're raised from Detroit, Metro Detroit, Denby High School. Saw that. Yeah. And you decided to build a life here, but you had a little bit of a challenging startup. I was remembering, because you told me the story years ago, but your book actually I was reading and was remembering. Let's just call it the meager beginning. So can you take us back and how you transitioned from radio to territory sales into the financial services business?
Yeah, radio wasn't working out too well. I was at 2 different radio stations, and the last one I managed was in St. Louis. The general manager of the one in California basically got fired for doing such a good job. He made so much money for the radio station, the owners felt they didn't need him anymore, and so they brought somebody in at half of what they paid him. So I left California, went to St. Louis, took over a radio station ranked 42 out of 42. It ended up being ranked 18 out of 42 a couple of years later. And then they let me go to bring in somebody at half of what they were paying me. And I said, I don't want to go around the country building other people's dreams. And so I went to work selling life insurance and did it part-time at first and was so successful at it that I ended up going full-time. And then, as you said, quickly went up the ladder and ended up managing, recruiting people and hiring people and training people to be life insurance reps in 7 different states.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That was still in Missouri, right?
That was Missouri and Fort Wayne, Indiana. Moved there a little bit, and then the end came. The president wanted me in Detroit, so it'd be easier to get to me and me to him. And so I moved to Detroit, and then 3 weeks after I moved there, he wanted me to pick up an 8th state. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I got a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. I don't want to travel any more than I am. And so I resigned 3 weeks after moving up to Michigan. Had AT&T install a phone line. I don't know if anybody remembers phone lines, but had a phone line put in the basement of the house under a bare light bulb, and opened up the phone book and started calling people saying, hey, you ever thought about doing some financial planning? And got my securities license and started independently right off the bat.
Yeah, that's a terrific thing you mentioned in the book. By the way, those are tuned in. This is one of Kurt's books here, Unlimited Income. Great read. We're going to reference it a couple times here. If you'd like a copy of this, let me know, and I'll send one to you guys. I often do that, and appreciate Kurt, being available to share this book with us. But you mentioned, Kurt, setting up in the bedroom, and your wife was kind enough to let you do that. How in the world did you sell that? You're a master salesman, I'll tell you that much. How did you sell your wife on letting you set up the shop in the bedroom?
Yeah, my wife's been teased by a lot of ladies about that. But basically, I got tired of the cold, damp basement. So I talked to her and let me up in the master bedroom. It's a pretty big bedroom. But it wasn't very much fun to wake up every morning to my desk and my file cabinets. So therefore, it wasn't very long, and I moved down into the living room. And then from the living room, ended up finally getting an office and moving out from there. So, yeah, she a great wife. That's all I can say. We'll be married 40 years this August.
Oh, no kidding. Well, congratulations. Yeah. Probably the best 10 years of her life, I would say, right? No, that's incredible, and congrats on the big family and all of that. So you get involved with the financial services business, and do you feel like you had some mentorship or someone that was kind of guiding you to make those transitions? Were you reading back then? Who was telling you, like, hey, go check this out, Kurt, or hey, check that out?
Gosh, really, I didn't have a mentor of any kind. I literally just kind of pulled up my bootstraps and said, okay, how am I going to make this thing happen? Never forget my first month after I quit and went in the basement of my home. The very first month, I made $5,000 selling life insurance. And I thought, wow, this is great. I made such a good decision. And the second month, I made $250 and went, uh-oh. And to be honest, the next 3 to 4 years we were gnawing on the bone. I was very blessed to be able to keep our house. I remember standing in the driveway with my foot on the bumper of the car with tears coming down my face, talking to my best friend saying, I'm going to lose my house. It's just a rough start, but I literally just kind of kept reading and kept searching. And remember, there was no internet then. So, it wasn't like, gee, I'll go on the internet and figure this out. It was just kind of whatever I thought might work, and worked my tail end off and worked long hours to make it work and pay the bills.
So in your book, in fact, I'll jump ahead of my notes here, but in your book, chapter 11, talks about, that's one of the biggest benefactors to success is to actually hire a coach or hire a mentor. Mm-hmm. Looking back, do you think that would have made a huge difference to you in those early stages, or is it something that you just have to go through?
No, I think hiring a coach would have been fantastic. It would have saved me that first 4 years of misery, I think, because the coach would have given me quite a bit more wisdom of what to do first, second, third, fourth, instead of me learning through the school of hard knocks. So, yeah, oh my gosh, thinking about it now, to have a coach back at that time, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, you put on your mentors make it possible for you to do in a few years what it could take decades to do on your own. And I would even add, and maybe fail at, and maybe have to go back and get a job. You put in here, Kurt, there are no shortcuts. How do you find a mentor that would be appropriate or worthy? There are a lot of quote unquote gurus out there putting themselves out there as mentors or experts.
I think just about any person who has the kind of experience you're looking for could be some kind of a mentor. They don't have to make a living at it or be a specialist at it. Obviously, as you said, there's plenty of places to go where there are some larger companies that offer coaching opportunities and what have you. I think one of the things that I really love about how I have the privilege to coach people is that I'm still active. I'm still in my practice. I really have cut my hours down. The book says unlimited income and more free time. And I've been able to cut my hours down to about 24 hours a week in the actual practice, which has given me plenty of time to be able to start coaching other advisors. And I'm passionate. Mike, I very well could retire right now. I've been very blessed in that regard. But I looked at Connie, my wife, and I said, babe, man, I feel like I've got all these years of knowledge that I've been blessed to achieve and learn from. And what a shame for me to go sit on a beach and just waste all that knowledge away without passing that on to somebody else. And, I'm a man of faith, and I just believe that's the thing we're supposed to do, is to mentor other people and help them find the same success we've been able to handle and find, and give them the shortcut so they can enjoy life and enjoy their family more.
Just kind of continue to go with that thread. I did mark in my notes here, work 25 hours a week. And I wanted to ask you about that, Kurt, because, it almost sounds naive, that like Tim Ferriss, this whole, 4-hour work week, and you're doing sixfold what he's talking about. But the idea that it almost comes off as like there is a shortcut, there is an easier way to do it. Can you kind of peel back the layers of the onion and tell us, how are you actually doing it? Are you quantifying an actual hour of work instead of an hour surfing the internet, or, kind of just being in the office? Or tell us what you mean by, unlimited income, or a 7-figure company and only work 25 hours a week.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I remember in 2001, I was making about $250,000 a year. Then I kind of understood some principles involving marketing that I never understood before. And in the next 6 years, went from 250,000 to 2.7 million of gross income to the firm. And so it had really hit a nice level of success. The problem, Mike, is that I was overwhelmed. I was going crazy. I was working long hours. I was trying to make it all work. And what I didn't understand is that there are two types of advisors. Okay, there's a hunter and there's a gatherer. Now, a hunter is a person who says, hey, I love the thrill of the chase. I love going after new clients. I love building plans for those clients and serving people and helping people plan out their future to be financially free. But when it comes to servicing those clients, a hunter is like, oh, I hate service because they want to go out and hunt more, right? And then you've got the gatherer, and the gatherer is the person who says, hey, you know what? I just don't like doing seminars or workshops. I don't like public speaking. I don't like chasing people. I don't like asking for referrals. They want to build a group of clientele and then spend all their time servicing that clientele. And the difference between the two is that the hunter really should look more at a commission-based approach, whereas a gatherer should look more at an assets under management approach. Now, I can't tell you the number of people I've coached already who don't recognize that difference. So they might be a hunter and they say, oh, but I want to build assets under management because then someday I'm going to be able to sell my practice. Well, then what happens is they get so bogged down with the assets under management and the service end of it that they can't hunt anymore. And they hit a ceiling of income. So now they're making $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 a year, maybe even $1 million, but they're stuck. They can't grow any further and they're swamped. They have no free time. Why? Because they're too busy servicing and they're too busy hunting and they've hit their ceiling. So what I teach is, I teach a lot of people, look, if you're a hunter, accept the fact you're a hunter. Don't worry about assets under management. go out and build a practice, make the commissions you can, and build your future through investing your own funds. And then you don't have to sell a company because you built millions in your own investment portfolio. All right. And then if you're doing annuities, you can always go to the 2% up front, the 1% trail on the annuities, so that you can still build some residual income. Doesn't have to all be commission. Whereas the gatherer is a person who turns around and says, hey, I don't like all that hunting stuff. I'm just going to give me 100 clients with $1 million a piece. That's going to make me $1 million a year, and I'm going to be happy. And then someday I'll sell my practice. So two different things. But the point is, if you're trying to do both, you're going to run yourself into the ground. So that's step one. You got to know who you are. Step number two is you have to know how to develop staff beneath you. And that requires learning delegation. That requires learning how to manage people, which many people who run their own financial practice aren't very good at. Excuse me. And so there's some learning phase that comes in there that people have to learn how to build that staff below them. And one of the big questions is, how do I find an advisor that's not going to steal my clients and run off down the street and open up their own shop? I had to learn that the hard way. I had 2 sub-advisors who did try to steal my firm at one point. And that was a lesson that I learned very well. But I'm thrilled it happened because it taught me how to do it properly.
Hey, Kurt, we're going to talk more about that in depth as much as you'll let us. Don't want you to get too choked up about it, but or angry at me. But the idea though that you just talked about is knowing yourself and then learning how to delegate, essentially. So are you saying that the 25 hours would be enough time to still do whichever you decide you are, a hunter or a gatherer, and then still delegate? Because it sounds to me like an 80-hour-a-week lifestyle.
No, it absolutely is a 25-hour-a-week lifestyle, because I've been able to develop a staff below me where I have other advisors who are actually, I've trained from the ground up, and they are actually going out and doing the hunting right now. And they're doing a lot of the meetings. As I said, I'm still very active, so I still do some meetings myself. But I limit how many new people I will talk to each month. They're doing really at this point the lion's share of all the work on gathering new clients and what have you. And then that allows me to kind of oversee and run the company, but still take my greatest talents and utilize them by going out and doing public speaking, by going out and marketing the book, by going out and having opportunities. So it's really been fun because I've had a number of wholesalers who have asked me about speaking. And so, maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know. It's up to you. But so I really spend 25 hours a week in the office, and the rest of my week I'm at home in my home office. And that's where I do my coaching. So in reality, I'm working probably 35 hours a week, and 10 of those hours are coaching, and 25 are actually in the office. But obviously, if I wanted to, I didn't have to do the coaching. I could just work 25 hours and enjoy life more. But I love the coaching.
So you've built a business, and the hours that it's taking to run the business are many more than even 80 hours. You've got 2 top-notch advisors that are out there that are taking a lot of the workload off of yourself, and you're able to really leverage them so that you only have to work 25 hours as a quote-unquote business owner and leader of the firm. That's how you're doing it.
That's correct.
One of the marketing techniques that you talked about, and maybe that's a little bit underwhelming of a description, but the philosophies and the success principles that you talked about is building authority. Mm-hmm. It's building authority. And I want to talk about that and not only as an advisor, but as a wholesaler, who can act as an advisor to advisors. How can we build this authority? How do you build authority?
Well, for all the wholesalers out there, I mean, so many times a wholesaler will come in and they'll give you a little tip about, here's where you can find more leads, or here's a little tip on something you can take to your existing clients and it might get you more income or whatever. But boy, marketing's the name of the game. And so when it comes to marketing, the number one thing you can do is have that authority. So when you look on my website or look at some of the places I've been on television from West Coast to East Coast, down to Miami, around the country, been on radio, spoke at Harvard Faculty Club, had articles in USA Today, etc. Now, a lot of that you're going to need some help with, rather than just yourself getting on the phone. But what a wholesaler could do is they could contact a media source. And the media source, one that I think is really, really great, is called Advantage Marketing, Advantage Media down in South Carolina.
Adam's company.
Yeah, Advantage Media, they can help people create a book. I think a book is the number one thing somebody has to do. I've written 3 books now. I remember a friend of mine named Darcy Juarez wrote a book called How to Write a Book in 7 Days. And my 3rd book that I wrote, I followed her guidance, and it took me 14 days. So I was a little slow, but did get the book done. So number one, I'd say get a book done. And if a wholesaler can help an advisor learn how to do that, boy, that's really going to help that wholesaler rise in the eyes of that advisor. Secondly, get somebody who can help you get on radio and television interviews based on the book and what you put in the book. And then as you compile articles in magazines or newspapers, as you have radio and TV things, and you have a book out there, well, you've got that authority, and authority is amazing how it changes things. Being a Forbes speaker right now is just an amazing difference for my career as well.
Can we dig into that a little bit? So you went from an income in the book, it says, of $250,000, and I'm assuming that means GDC or commissions,
Yep.
essentially.
Yes.
And you 10-folded it. You 10x'd it, as popular to say now, to $2.5 million.
Right.
Well, that can happen not only in a financial advisor's life, but a wholesaler's life. You announce your product's going to close, you catch the wind at the right time, and you literally can 10x your income. Kurt, what are some of the, and maybe not the obvious ones, but what are some of the successes and maybe pitfalls that you've seen happen when that happens to a person?
As far as their income 10xing?
Exactly.
I think the very first thing is they got to make sure they're reinvesting back into their business. Too many advisors, in my opinion, don't understand the power of marketing. They get, and many times they're not diversified in their marketing. They don't have multiple streams of marketing. They have one stream. So maybe they do dinner events, seminars. Maybe they do college workshops. Maybe they do Social Security stuff. Maybe they do referral-based marketing. Well, if all of your marketing is in a single channel, and that channel somehow dries up at some point, you're in real trouble. So the first thing I would say is reinvest back into marketing. Make sure that you're pouring money into that, and that you have a budget, a firm budget that every month is going into marketing for their firm. And for a wholesaler, I think the same thing. I know they're given budgets by the companies they work with, and they have a certain level of that budget. As their income goes up, maybe in addition to the budget, I don't know the rules, Mike, you'd have to tell me this with wholesalers, but can a wholesaler spend some of their own money by helping out the reps that they work with? I don't know, but if they can, they might want to call that a marketing expense, and that will help them grow. I think a wholesaler could write a book, have a wholesaler write a book on how advisors can improve and be better. And so that would be something they can hand out. Now the wholesaler's got authority. Hey, I wrote a book for financial advisors, and imagine what that would do for the advisors they talk to. You're going to get an audience there, and you've got something free that you can hand out. The other thing is you have to invest in your people. Because if you're going to grow your firm, as your firm grows, you've got to be bringing in good people. The number one success I've had in finding good people is to ask my existing staff, who do you know that might be open to working here? I'm not worried about either looking for a job. I'm wondering, who do you know who's a really sharp person that might already have a job that we can approach about switching jobs? Man, you find good people that way. So I'm not a fan of putting an ad in a newspaper or putting an ad on Indeed.com or any of those others. I say just talk to the people you already know. If you don't have any staff right now, ask people you do know, friends you know, who they know who are sharp people that maybe you can get. As you build sharp people under you, that's when your firm grows then and you take off. If you don't have the right people, you just can't grow your firm. And then it comes down to delegating and really investing money into your people. So my staff, I really overpay, in my opinion. I think many of them will agree. And I give them bonuses, and basically they get a percentage of our revenue. So the more money our firm does, the more money I give to the staff as bonuses on top of their already good salaries. So they know, hey, if we grow the firm, my income goes up. And so now you've got a whole team working behind you that's taking the pressure off the owner of the financial practice and helping that practice grow. And boy, I would think if a wholesaler could put some of that into, and you know, when I say a book, it doesn't have to be a 200-page book. It could be a 30 or 40 or 50-page booklet, you know, but something that would help, going back to the very beginning of our talk when you talked about the importance of a mentor. Man, if you're a wholesaler, be a mentor. Don't just give sales tips or sales ideas. Find out, ask the advisor, where do you want to be in 3 years? What do you want your firm to look like in 3 years? And maybe some of them are doing that. But not many of the wholesalers I talk to ever ask me that. Instead, they come in and they got their brochures of their product line, and they talk about their product and how great their product is. And it's like, you know, it goes back to the old WIIFM. What's in it for me, right?
My favorite radio station.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but that's great. That's great comment there, Kurt. A few things I want to dig into a little bit more. But let's just tailor right from where you left off. You know, let's say the wholesaler is five or less years in the business. Maybe they just come off of the inside wholesaler desk, and now they got the big break. They got a chance to come in and see Curtis and Associates, or a firm that's on your level, multiple seven-figure writers. What possible value can that wholesaler bring to the firm? You know, how would you feel if a brand new kid, let's say he's 31 years old and graduated college, got a job on the inside sales desk. Now he got promoted to be an external. How would you feel if he asked you, hey, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Maybe he can help you to get there. I mean, it seems like, you know, a pretty imposing question to ask someone.
I think the first thing a wholesaler, in my opinion, would have to get into their mindset is that when you go into a larger firm, they many times say, oh, this guy's got his act together. And they have no idea what that person's life is like. You know, they have no idea, are they working 50 and 60 hours a week? Are they overwhelmed right now? You know, we get caught up on the outside of their office and the suits they wear and everything else. But deep down inside, that advisor has goals. And the name of the game is find out where's the pain, right? The financial advisor has to find the pain in his clients. A wholesaler should have to find the pain for the financial advisor. And the old adage of, I don't care what you know until I know how much you care. So for a wholesaler to go in and say, listen, you know I'm with XYZ company. If it's okay with you, I'd like to not even talk about our products and services today. I'd like today to be just about you. Now, I can't promise that I can help you. I mean, your experience, you've been in the business 25 years, 30 years, whatever. You know, I understand I'm a younger guy. I'm just starting out. I'm 31 years old. But the one thing I do have is I talk to a lot of advisors. And as I talk to all these different advisors, I've been gathering information on what their best practices are. I've been gathering information on what works and what doesn't work. And so I just like to talk to you, find out where your pain is right now. And not knowing if I can promise to help you or not, I do promise I will do everything in my power to make your life better. Whether you work with my products or not, I want to be here for you. And I'll tell you what, if somebody ever came in like that and talked to me like that, I think my mouth would just stay open. Like, what? Seriously? And instantly, even though this might be a 31-year-old kid in my eyes, man, do I respect that kid. All right. Because that guy is really trying to do what's right for me. And no matter what I think of him, he's probably earned some of my time.
Would he earn some of your business? Or how much does the product value have to come along with the conversation? At the end of the day, the guy might bring you, the 7 habits of highly effective advisors and help you with your practice. But if he's representing a product that you're not going to use, he's not going to get any value other than call it goodwill. Is that short-sighted thinking, or is there more to the story?
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to take this from an advisor standpoint and then translate it into a wholesaler. But from an advisor standpoint, imagine if I had somebody in my office, Mike, and I turned around and said, listen, I got these 3 or 4 different investments. These things are great. They're going to make you a lot of money. I don't know where you're at right now, but this one's going to generate 7% rate of return. This one's going to generate 8%. This one's got a bonus on it, whatever the case might be. That client's going to look at me as a salesman, but why? I don't have their best interest at heart. And there's a reciprocity situation here, that when somebody does something nice for you, you automatically think, okay, I want to give back to this person. So if a wholesaler can just focus on that advisor, treat them like an advisor should be treating the advisor's clients, you're going to get a lot further. And so now when I have a client come in, the first hour with them is spent doing what? Asking questions. What's important to you? Where do you want to be? What income do you want to have? Blah, 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 right? All right. Well, that's going back to what I just said about a wholesaler. Why not leave your product brochures in the car, come in with a notepad with some well thought out questions, and just say, listen, today, I don't even want to talk about my company or what products we have. I just want to spend 45 minutes to ask you, or 30 minutes, not 45 minutes. Not many wholesalers get 45 minutes, but, but if they're going to give you 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever, I'll bet if you started with 15 minutes and started with the right questions, you'd end up being there 30 to 40 minutes, and the advisor would never even realize the time went by. And just find out what's important, what their goals are, when they want to retire. Hey, how things going? Are your kids, how old are they? Is college coming down the pipe there? Are you set up for college? What do you need for college to work for you? Blah, 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 blah. And then come back maybe next time around and sit down with a plan of attack and say, look, here are our products. Now, this product does this product does that. There's probably a place somewhere in your clientele where this will fit. But let me tell you what we'd like to do, or what I'd like to suggest. What about if every time you sold one of these products, you just mentally in your mind said, okay, I'm going to take blank % of that sale and the commission I get from that, and I'm going to send it over here to the college fund for my son, Adam. I don't know. I'm not a wholesaler, but all I know is the wholesaler, forget the tricky little, here's a sales idea, or here's how to get more leads. Every wholesaler comes in and tells me that. Find a way to show a true interest in me and what I want. And then here's one last thought. I'll tie this part off. Why not have a few mentors in your back pocket? And when you're talking to an advisor and you're going through that questionnaire, and the advisor says, I got to be honest with you, I'm just not spending enough time with my family. Or, you know what, I got to be honest with you, I'm going crazy. I'm overwhelmed right now. I don't have time for you, Mr. Wholesaler, because I'm overwhelmed. Well, okay, if I had a way to help you not be overwhelmed, would that be worth 15 to 30 minutes of your time? Well, yeah. Well, now why not go in with a mentor and say, hey, here's a guy that took his business from A to B. Doesn't have to be me, but of course, if you want to, you could. But find 1 or 2 or 3 mentors and say, here's a guy who did this with his practice. He's now only working 25 hours a week in his practice and making tons of money. Why don't you call this guy? Or I'll tell you what, I can get you an hour of his time for free. And I'm sure he'd be willing to give you ideas on how to not be so overwhelmed. Every single advisor I talk to about in my coaching practice, I offer a free coaching session for 1 hour. Why can't a wholesaler say, I've got a guy who'll give you a free coaching session for 1 hour? That's an idea.
That's valuable, and definitely would set the wholesaler apart. And it sounds like you're taking that initial meeting time to, set the floor, set the base of rapport and of call it relationship building. You're kind of setting the table, both whether you're a wholesaler or a financial advisor talking to clients. Is that the gist of it, Kurt? Is you're demonstrating that you do care, you want to add value to the person's life and business?
Yeah. I don't care what you know until I know how much you care.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then,
that's kind of the way I'm at. And I mean, you take a wholesaler that's listening to this broadcast right now, and you turn around and say, okay, this rep I'm going to go talk to tomorrow, he's probably had 6 wholesalers in this week. Do you know, it got to a point in my practice where I have a COO, a guy who runs the whole firm, so that I don't have to talk to wholesalers. And I apologize to wholesalers right now, but any wholesaler who would ever call my staff, the gal who answers the phone, knows, oh, this doesn't go to Kurt, this goes to Mike Brooks. And then Mike would let the wholesaler come in. The wholesaler can pitch Mike Brooks, but they never get to me. Right.
see, therein lies a challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how does any vendor, product sponsor, software provider, you mentioned the red, green, blue concepts. How do they get the advisor's attention? We're talking about, the golden egg-laying goose type of an advisor.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Do you have to go in and impress Mr. Brooks and impress the others so much that they want to refer you up to the advisor, or what do you see that does work?
Most advisors don't have that big of a staff. Most advisors, you might have a couple of part-time people. Some of them might have 5 or 6 people. In our office, there's 9 or 10 of us. The bottom line is that, number one, a guy like Mike in my office who meets with the wholesalers, I promise you he knows where it hurts for me. He knows my pain, because when I'm depressed or I'm frustrated, who do you think I'm sharing that with? I'm sharing it with that guy that the wholesaler talks to, that the wholesaler can't get to me. So now, for a wholesaler to say, Mike, I'm just really curious right now, and Mike's getting a bunch of wholesalers calling on him now. But if a wholesaler went to Mike and said, hey, Mike, I don't even want to talk about our products today. I just want to talk about, where does it hurt Kurt right now? You know what I mean? I mean, where is Kurt struggling? I mean, or where's the firm struggling? Okay. I promise you, Mike knows exactly where it hurts. And so you can get just as much out of Mike, and probably more than what I would share. Why? Because I might not want to share all that with you. But Mike, he'll share it with you. Even the front desk gal. A wholesaler comes in, sits in our lobby, and typically they're chit-chatting with the gal at the front desk or whatever. I mean, I don't think the front desk gal is going to give too much information out, but he could start off by saying, hey, what's going great for C. Curtis right now? What's all the good news of this firm? Oh, we've got this and we've done that and everything else. Wow, cool. Well, where's it hurt right now? Where maybe is the owner struggling? Or you'd be amazed sometimes what a front desk person might tell you. And all it's going to do is load your shotgun, right?
Well, that's quite an analogy to use, loading a shotgun, but I know what you mean. In fact, I had a great initial conversation with Michelle back in the day when she occupied that desk in your office, and that led to the beginnings of our relationship. So I can attest that is a technique, and it is a very fruitful one, is to talk to the staff. I offer a program or an opinion, and I assimilate the success to the wheels on a slot machine. You got 3 of the tumblers, and I say that you need to get to a 7 out of 10 on 3 things, Kurt. First one is they need to like you. Like, the financial advisor has to view the wholesaler personally as a 7. Now, they don't have to love you. You don't need to be a 10 in their eyes. But if you're a 6, if you're late or you're rude or you're not a 7, at least, you're not going to get any business. no matter how long you take and how so they have to view you. Second one is the company that you represent. Now you've had the experience of dealing with companies that were not so hot. They didn't have a great track record, and a lot of advisors would take a pause on that company until a company can be at least a 7. Now they don't have to love the company, but you've got to have this combination in order to get in the door. 7 for the wholesaler, 7 for the company, and then even a 7 on the product. This company might be terrific, but this particular investment you might not be a fan of. But when you get all 3 of those tumblers aligned, a 7, 7, 7 or better, that's when I found the success doors open up. What is your opinion on that? Am I on track, or is that a, can you add to that?
Well, no, I think you're on track. I mean, yeah, there's no question relationships are important. I mean, if a wholesaler comes in and turns me off right away, I mean, I don't care what he has to say, he turned me off, right? And I can't wait for him to leave or her to leave. So I think you're right about the 777. You got to work in all those areas, and you got to build that relationship. And the other thing is a drip campaign. I mean, in my practice, one of the things I teach the people I coach is that if you don't have a drip campaign set up, you're missing the boat. An advisor might go out there and have a seminar, and let's say they had 30 people show up, or we'll call it 20 buying units. And out of the 20 buying units, they had 6 or 7 people come in to the office. Well, what about the other 13 never signed up? You probably got their email on the response form. What are you doing with them? And most advisors just forget about them. And I'm like, what, are you crazy? Okay, so today they weren't interested. That doesn't mean they're not tomorrow. Think about it. How many times do you get a realtor's postcard in your mailbox? Some smiling realtor on it. They keep dripping on you. So when you do want to sell your house, oh, I like that gal, I'm going to go with her, right? So I think wholesalers need to do the same thing. I think, why not create a little newsletter? A newsletter doesn't have to be a 3-4 page thing. It can just be a 1-page, one-sided thing where you're dripping on the reps that you call on through email. And you're putting some great articles in there. Or you're putting some information that the rep goes, wow, that's pretty cool. It's keeping in front of the rep beyond just the times you stop in their office. And because I'm telling you what, when you walk out of the office, that rep's so busy with everything else on their plate, they forgot about you 5 minutes after you walked out. But if you're dripping on them and your name's in front of them, and then next time they call and say, or their internal calls and says, hey, Jim's going to be in your area, would like to stop by and visit with you. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll talk to Jim. Why? Jim maintained a relationship with me, right? It doesn't hurt to buy me food either, but yeah.
Keeping it real, Kurt Whipple.
There you go.
It's interesting. Some people call it top of mind awareness. Some people call it, I like to call it omnipresence. And essentially, I view it as a veteran wholesaler, that it's not the advisor's job or the client's job to think of me and my product when they're ready to do business. It's my job to be right there when they're ready to do business. Initially when you said drip program, I thought dividend reinvestment program, but actually it kind of is.
Yeah.
I am continuously double downing, triple downing my investment in the relationship with the advisor, and the advisor can do the same with the clients. And you mentioned the seminar, Kurt. Haven't you found that line? You had 8 people that came in, and you had, let's say, 8 people that didn't come in. Isn't there there's a few of them that almost came in?
Mm-hmm.
And are you saying that we can get those few across the goal line with just some simple follow-up?
Stop and think about it. Somebody does a seminar and they have, let's just say, 10 people per month. It'd probably be a lot more than that. I'd say it'd be closer to 15 to 20 people a month or more that never set an appointment with them. If you take 20 people a month times 12, you got 240 people. If you do that over a period of 3 years, well, now you got 700 and some odd people, right? 760. So No, that's not right. Yeah, 720, whatever it is. I is a financial advisor. I can deal with numbers. But the bottom line is, for every time you do an event and you keep building up that drip list, that improves your odds of who's going to respond from that drip list. Well, if you stop and say, okay, I get 2 new clients a month eventually. Every single year, I'm getting 2 new clients a month from my drip list. And that average client might be worth $10,000. That's $20,000 a month. That's $250,000 a year. I don't know about you. I'll always take an extra $250,000 a year from somebody that I didn't have to go chase, from somebody that I didn't have to talk into coming in, but they called me because of my drip campaign. I'll do it all day long. And I think wholesalers be in the same boat. That all of a sudden, I got to tell you, Mike, I've had alternative investment type products that have been a challenge, and obviously they went through some tough times in the first 10 years of this century with the '08 crash and the real estate crash and other stuff, oil and gas, all that kind of stuff. And you get a little apprehensive about many times those things. But I'll tell you what, when you find one when you finally put a client into one that works for them, then all of a sudden those floodgates open up, and now all of a sudden that advisor is going to be pouring money into that thing. So even if you've gone through a bad rap recently, or your products haven't done that well recently, if you're dripping on somebody, there's always a time where that right client comes in and they give you another chance. And if that chance works out and it goes well, then you'll get a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And now all of a sudden, all these people you've been dripping on start coming back to you and start doing business with you. Imagine what that wholesaler's income does. I mean, man, you can double, triple your income because you never gave up on them.
Hey, Kurt, what do you think? What do you feel about the implementation of alternative and intelligence and robo advisors, and even the let's call it the contraction or compression of the value that a wholesaler brings because of everything that's available on the internet? Back in the day, you had to call Carrie from X Fund to come in and talk to you about the fund and the industry because there was no internet, and your conferences are not every day, so you had to rely on a wholesaler a lot more. Can you address, you've been in the business for 3 decades. How do you see that? Affecting wholesaling today, even financial advisors today? And then where do you think it's going in the future?
What's in it for me? I mean, very, very seriously. What I mean by that is simply, the robo advisors are out there. I remember 10 years ago, it was a really big deal. 15 years ago, it was all the talk. Oh, advisors are in trouble. People are just going to use robo advisors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People still like relationships, and a robo advisor cannot provide a relationship. All right, that's number one. Number two, a robo advisor can tell you, hey, you want so much in stocks and so much in bonds. Now I'm purely financial advisor here, but I'll get to the wholesaler in a minute. So that robo advisor can tell me stocks versus bonds, etc. Seldom will a robo advisor ever get into annuities or life insurance or maybe some other things. So robo advisors don't cover the whole spectrum. And now the number of people I see come into my office, and being a Series 7, I'm a stockbroker, I love the market. But the number of people that come in there have 95 and 98% of their future tied to Wall Street. And they're retiring in 2 years. And I go, oh, what are you doing? Talk about a gamble. I say, let's take that over to a wholesaler. All right. A relationship cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. And again, going back to what's in it for me, if the wholesaler is bringing me things that make my life better, not just the latest sales gimmick. I'm sorry, but so many wholesalers have come in with sales gimmicks, and or they'll say, hey, I'll give you $500 towards your next event or whatever the case. Hey, I can get $500 from 10 wholesalers. Why do I have to get it from you, right? All right, so the bottom line is it's got to be, again, focusing on what's in it for the financial advisor you're talking to. if they will learn to focus on the relationship and what's in it for that advisor first. And I'll tell you, if a wholesaler ever came in and left his briefcase and his products in the car and just had a notepad with some questions on it and started asking me about my life and what my struggles are, I die and go to heaven. I couldn't even imagine that. So here's my question to wholesalers listening. What are you doing that separates you from the other guy? Okay. I ask advisors that I coach all the time, what are the two things that you're doing in your financial firm that clearly and distinctly separates you from the competition? Wholesalers need to ask that question.
Kurt, I have my opinion on that. What would you say if a wholesaler was a clean slate and they wanted to really gain a lot of value from listening this far into this episode? Where would they benefit the most? Where do you start as a wholesaler in differentiating yourself? And as you're thinking about the answer to that, I'll tell you what I do. I believe it's in research. I know what high school you went to. I know what college you went to. I know where your first office was. I've spent several hours researching you so that I am coming to you with value instead of coming to you with my hand out or an empty piece of paper trying to interview you and then go away. I'm trying to bring you value initially. And that is because I've done some research. A lot of times I see the wholesalers, and even I've done it in my past, you don't spend the time. And I show up, I have my pitch down cold, and I try to be malleable enough in my pitch so that it does add some value. But a lot of wholesalers are pushed really hard, and they don't value the research time. They really are relying on the product to carry the weight. What do you think? Where should they start? Whether they're a veteran wholesaler, a new wholesaler, new product cycle, how do you begin to build that WIIFM for the advisor?
Your comment was 100% right on. I think it's a brilliant comment that all wholesalers should take to heart. I think, when I talk about going into somebody's office with a notepad and asking questions about their current situation, how much more they're going to get that advisor to open up if they get them to start talking about themselves. So if you do that research and say, hey, I understand you went to Denby High School. Yeah. Oh, what years did you go there? This. Okay, great. And you got married in 1979? Yeah. Well, I'm kind of impressed, right? Why? This guy did his homework. This gal did her homework. All right. But more importantly, what did you do? You got the rep talking to you. And nobody minds talking about themselves. So now you turn around and say, so how did you get your business to this point? Tell me, how did you do that? And let them brag about themselves. Because once they're done bragging, they now like you. They're in that 7, 8, 9 level, maybe a 10 level. Okay. And now you turn around and say, well, man, that's all great stuff. And I'm impressed. This is really amazing what you've done with your career. Can I ask you this question? Where are the stumbling blocks for you right now? What's holding you back? What's keeping you from hitting the next level? You see, the gross dealer concession, the income you're getting is $800,000 or $1 million. Do you have a desire to go to 2 million? Well, I'd love to go to 2 million. Well, what's stopping you? Right? So I think what you said was brilliant. And if wholesalers will capture that, that's going to help them get the advisor talking about themselves, which then opens the door to asking the other questions that maybe that advisor wouldn't have talked about if they didn't do that. So great thought on your part.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kurt. That's just really first base in my practice management philosophy. Another one is, which I my daughter had a softball game yesterday that I went to in the light rain, and but I wanted to go to the seminar that your firm put on last night.
Oh.
Yes, I wanted to go there. I wanted to view it, and I wanted to audit it for you and come back to you with a list of things that I saw that you're doing well, some ideas on things you could do to enhance or improve, and even some things that maybe you should stop doing. Because I have seen in the thousands, or let's say several hundred seminars over my career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of value that I tell wholesalers to bring, as opposed to, trying to have the advisor tell you how they can help. A lot of advisors are like, I don't know, how can you help me? Don't give me a part-time job of figuring out how you can help me so that you can sell me on more stuff. Another one that's really popular today is the LinkedIn profile. You would not believe how many advisors just haven't had just the desire or the need or the ability to maximize their LinkedIn profile or their website. And we all know that today, especially, everyone checks you out online before they come and see you in person. So very easy things that a wholesaler can do is to bring you a LinkedIn sheet and say, here's your LinkedIn page. Here's what I liked about it. Here's what I didn't like about it. Here's what I think you can consider to improve it. That is value. That's what's in it for the advisor to see that wholesaler.
Yeah, I'd probably twist one thing in that. You have to remember, especially the more successful the advisor, if you say, hey, here's what I saw in I think you should change this, this, and this, their ego is a problem. Because now you're telling me here's where you're screwing up. And so that could be an ego issue. But to come in and say, hey, I want to do a 10-year seminar, and thank you for letting me do so. And man, oh man, I hear all the things I thought you did so well. If you're ever open to it, let me know, and I'll give you a few pointers maybe that I saw that could have, maybe, I don't know if it can be improved, but maybe could improve your seminar. Well, now, oh yeah, go ahead. Now I've invited you to critique my seminar, right?
Yeah, of course. It's about the delivery, of course.
And, yeah. And I knew where you were going with that, so I just wanted to maybe clarify that. But yeah, no, it's a great idea. I think it's a fantastic idea, and yeah.
Curtis, we're rounding third base here. We've really talked about a lot of things, some advanced marketing stuff, some basic stuff as well, that maybe simple but not easy, as you'd like to say. And I wanted to ask you, are you currently yourself involved with the mentor? Are you reading somebody in particular, whether it's a newer author or a classic? Where's the fountain that's feeding into you coming from currently?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Mainly two different areas. Well, three different areas, I should say. Number one, I'm a big fan of Dan Kennedy, and he's got his every spring he has his super conference and his fall conference, and I love going to those because I really do get a lot of information. I mean, he's all about marketing, and I believe marketing is the number one key. You can be a pretty crummy advisor and still make a lot of money if you know how to market. So I think going to those events are very, very smart. I would even encourage a wholesaler to attend those because that's where you're going to get your ideas that you can share with advisors. So that's one thing. Second thing is I am a Forbes speaker. I'm one of, right now there's only 22 of us in the nation, nationwide, that are certified Forbes speakers. And I'm a Forbes speaker. I just recently got to hang with Steve Forbes, so that was kind of fun. But I have a coach that Forbes provides, so I get coaching from that coach. And so I'd say something like that is really good. And then, frankly, I'm a reader. I just love reading. So, reading things, popular books like the E-Myth or E-Myth Revisited, or any of those things. Dan Kennedy's book, Magnetic Marketing, is a really great one for anybody who's not very efficient at marketing. As a matter of fact, I would think if a wholesaler grabbed that book by Dan Kennedy, Magnetic Marketing, and read that, they'd probably learn a lot about how to market their wholesaling. So might not be a bad idea there. So that's basically it from those places. The coach from Forbes and the Dan Kennedy stuff, and I've always been very, very creative, so my brain never stops coming up with new ideas and new strategies and things of that nature. And
yeah, I found myself. You don't know how you get there, but I found myself on Planet Dan back in 2007, and so I'm a big fan of his work. A lot of my stuff is based off of either his direct knowledge or recommendations, like Ogilvy's stuff, Gary Halbert's stuff, all this direct response and marketing gurus, definitely classics and priceless. But I too agree with you that being a lifetime learner, a student of the game, might
Absolutely.
might be the most important thing. So, with that, let me ask you a couple more questions, Kurt. We'll get out. Um, these are my signature questions too, by the way. So all the guests get these questions, and it's kind of humorous to see how they answer. Some of them are very serious, and some of them are more lighthearted. Feel free to be yourself. First question: you pick that phone up, and on the other end of that phone is the young Kurt Whipple. Is, let's just say, the 30-year-old Kurt Whipple that is in his master bedroom with that phone line that had ran. What advice do you give him? You got 5 minutes. What advice do you give to your younger self from where you are now, Kurt?
Read more. I wasn't a reader back then as much as I am today. Read more and find a mentor. That'd be the two biggest things, without a question. And if I added a third, it'd be study marketing. Learn how to market. If you have a mentor, if you become great at marketing and you read more, you're going to do great.
Yeah, words of wisdom. And we would hope that the young Kurt Whipple would be able to hear that.
Yeah.
As well, sometimes when we're younger, the biggest complaint is that we're running so fast we don't hear.
Yeah.
So I think that those words of wisdom are timeless. Second question. All right, Kurt, if you could have any superpower, which one would you choose, and what would you do with it?
Probably to be able to read people's minds. I think reading people's minds would be, holy cow. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? Right? Well, I guess you could go wrong because depending on what they're thinking, you might say, whoa, plug my ear. I don't want to hear what you're thinking right now. Remember that movie, What Women Want, with Mel Gibson? Oh my gosh, that was so hilarious when he could hear women thinking. I think being able to read people's minds, but be able to turn it on and off when I wanted to, that'd be the greatest. Because that gets back to the what's in it for me, right? And if I knew what people were thinking and what they were really hoping to achieve and what they wanted, that would go a long, long way.
Yeah, you could really, really serve them directly and not, not waste any of their time or anyone's efforts. Thanks for doing that, Kurt. Appreciate you sharing a little bit there. I figured you might. Well, the number one answer, by the way, has been teleportation or time travel. Being able to shrink time, and imagine if you could walk into your master bathroom and walk into your office in Michigan, and then walk back in, and now you're back in Tennessee. You cut down on all the travel time there. That was one of the top answers. But reading people's minds is an interesting one, because initially people think it's diabolical, like you want to be able to manipulate. But I know where your heart is, and you want to be able to just serve them to where their real pain is, not necessarily take advantage of them. So, well, with that, I want to take a moment though, and actually just thank you for not only for being on the show today, but for the many years of leadership and even some mentorship to me personally, and your advice. Appreciate you for doing that, and thank you for that very much. I'm actually sure that a lot of people that you've come into contact with would echo my sentiments. So I'll thank you on behalf of them as well. And I do wish you much fortune and success both now and in the future, Kurt. And as we say on the Awesome Wholesaler Experience podcast, it is about the journey, and we wish you well on yours. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. And if you haven't done it already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you push that little bell icon, you'll be notified every time that I drop a new episode or that a new episode of the show is released. Of course, your awesome ratings and reviews are never expected, but they are very much appreciated. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show. And, of course, thanks for being awesome. Good night, everybody.